Good evening and welcome to Pressing Issues. I'm your host, Jason Diffendahl, and today is Sunday, March 21st, 2021. Allow me to introduce my illustrious panel for today. First, we have Amy.
Hi, everyone.
Then we have Rob. And we have Mike.
Welcome, everybody.
And so, today's show, we're going to talk about a couple of things. Rob was at the Touch of Disney event at Disney California Adventure. Were you were there the first day, right, Rob?
I was on the 18th. It was a great event.
So Rob is going to tell us all about that. And let's see. Then we've got the thing we forgot to talk. Well, we ran out of time, really. Last week was the MobileMagic rollout. So interesting stuff going on there, since Magic Bands are no longer given out for free to everybody staying at a Disney resort. Then we've got the Moana Tiki Room overlay concept art that came out this week, and I'm required to talk about that for at least 30 minutes tonight to show Tom's vindication to all the world. And then finally, we've got Bob Chapek coming out and claiming that guest satisfaction is up compared to before the parks were closed for COVID. So, yeah. I mean, you can make statistics say anything you want, right? So, but anyway, let's get kicked off with Rob. I'm sure we're all anxious to hear, and we had some. One of our reporters, Katie, was at the Touch of Disney event too, and a lot of pictures and reviews on our website. But I want to hear from Rob firsthand. So, Rob, why don't you tell us all about the event, all the details, leave no stone unturned.
Thanks. I will tell you that it was a great event. It was the first time that I've been in that park where it hasn't been overcrowded. You could actually move around. Everyone was, very much socially distanced. The lines were all reasonable once you got into the park. With that said, getting into the park was a nightmare. Parking was overwhelmed. The trams aren't running because of budgets or COVID. So we had to walk from the Mickey and Friends garage to DCA, which is a pretty lengthy walk, especially in a very lengthy line. Literally from the line was starting back from the parking garage all the way to the entrance of the park. And then once you got in front of the actual entrance, there was a switchback zigzag. So it probably took me a good hour actually to get into the park. But with that said, the cast members were all super excited. You could tell they were all grateful that we were there. I was thanked, hundreds of times for coming back to the parks. Again, you could tell they were very thankful to have a chance to bring some Disney magic to life again in the parks. As far as the actual experience inside, like I said, it was a lot of great socially distant space. The food was actually really good. I was surprised that the food was as good as it was. There was a huge learning curve. You could see that ordering through mobile ordering. Most of the guests at in Disneyland or Adventures weren't used to mobile ordering, so you could see that the cast members were spending a significant amount of time helping people figure that out. I didn't see a mechanism at all to pay with cash. I think everything had to be mobile orders. I didn't even see any registers. So I think you didn't have a choice other than to mobile order. So that was a piece. They did give everyone, as part of your admissions, a $25 dining card that you loaded onto the My Disney Experience app. And that's how you would pay for the $25 worth of food that was included in your ticket. But again, there was a pretty strong learning curve associated with that. Most people had, including myself, had no idea how to load a dining card. So you saw people standing around off by themselves, fumbling around, figuring out how to do that. But
Yeah,
once you got, go ahead.
I saw that Katie, I think, even had an issue the first time with getting that loaded on because it wasn't straightforward. You would almost kind of imagine that if you buy a ticket for an event and they're going to give you a $25 food and beverage credit, and you have to mobile order the food, couldn't they somehow just figure out how to put $25 into your account without making you go through a, pain in the butt scenario where you have to get the dining card and then you have to put it into your account in order to spend it, and all this for people who are totally not accustomed to this kind of thing? I mean, certainly people at Walt Disney World are much more accustomed to these kinds of uses of the app because we've been doing it for a lot longer with mobile order and stuff. And again, the IT infrastructure that would be the most guest friendly would be $25 credit just shows up in your account. But obviously that's too complicated. So sorry, mini rant there. Just had to get that mini rant in.
Definitely rant worthy because it's actually a little bit more difficult than that. Because originally when you made the purchase, it wasn't at all tied to your Disney account. So what you literally had to do is when you went to the gate, they scanned your ticket. They gave you a paper ticket as well as your Disney dining card. But there was never a time in which they mechanically or physically tied your ticket to your account. You could have chosen to do that yourself, but that would be another step that, again, someone who hadn't done this previously wouldn't have any idea how to do it. And then to further complicate it, you actually had to input that dining card at every time you chose to use it. So for me,
really,
I used the dining card. Yeah, so it didn't load the $25.
Lord.
And you had to choose dining card as a payment option each time, and then rekey in the 16-digit code.
Wow. That's worse than I thought. That's worse than I thought.
Some key learning, and you got to realize, you think about how quickly they tied this together. I mean, certainly there's no excuse for that poor user experience, but the timing I'm sure was very difficult for their IT team to get all that together.
So
what never ceases to amaze me is I don't understand it, because Disney Studios, which is the side that I worked with, is so tech savvy and they're so ahead of the curve. And then when it comes to parks, resorts, and travel, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I think obviously part of the problem is that, no parts of this company talk to each other, right? Like we've established that true many times over. But not only that, I mean, so it's one stretch to expect that the parks will talk to the studios people about tech, but you've got the issue where, like, the Disneyland tech people don't talk to the Disney World tech people, right? I mean, like, why do they need to reinvent the wheel twice? Like, mobile order on the My Disney Experience app will save your credit card. So, Rob, is if you had to re-input the number every time you had to buy something, does that mean, like, when you ran out of your $25, you had to input a credit card number?
No, I already had a credit card, and it pulled that credit card number every time I used it.
Oh,
so it was just the dining card.
So the dining card you had to input every time.
Their system didn't know how to recognize their internal card. It knows how to recognize MasterCard, Visa, American Express, but not a Disney card.
Right. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Again.
Because money.
That's no surprise. I mean, I bought the Premier Pass years ago, and wherever park I renewed it in, it didn't work in the other one. So if I renewed it in Disney World, my first trip to Disneyland, customer service, and the same way back and forth. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yep, I think that was the case for every year the Premier Pass existed, actually. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was that all of that. I just don't understand how two parts of the company that like do literally the same thing. They run theme parks, and they have no idea what the
Well,
other people do.
here's another thing that it could be. It could be that they didn't really want to take the time to recognize the card, because if somebody got frustrated enough, they might just use their Visa, which was already stored, and then they wouldn't have to give them the $25.
Wow.
That's I wouldn't be surprised that. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I would be surprised if they were actually that smart to come up with something so devious. That would
Well,
surprise
no,
me.
I don't think that was the reason they came up with it. I think it was like, oh, we can't figure this out in time. Oh, it's no big deal. Maybe they won't bother to use it. That's kind of
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
along what I was thinking.
In California, actually, there are some pretty strict rules around stored value cards like that. Um, they can't recognize that as revenue forever, so there's no benefit on the books. And if it's under $20, you can actually require them to give you a refund, and they will, and they legally have to do so. So
Oh, so you could have bought one thing for $5 and then gotten your cash back.
you could have, yes.
Wow. I mean, that would have probably blown their minds if you went to guest services and asked them to do that. Their heads
But I
would
will
have
say-
exploded.
With the food thing, the most by far the most egregious offense was they had no Mickey ear bars anywhere in the park.
Of course not, because they all melted.
I mean, I
When
went and they had every other kind of ice cream that you could want, but no Mickey ears bars
Well,
anywhere.
when they turned off all the freezers to save money, they all melted.
But outside of that, I will tell you they had plenty of seating. Down by Pixar Pier, where normally you would watch the show at the end of the night. Great seating. I took some amazing pictures that I probably would not have been able to take any other time because the lack of crowds. It was overall it was actually a very pleasant experience. I hope it's a representative of what the reopening parks will look like with 15% to max capacity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this has to be less than 15%, right? So, but with attractions open, 15%. I mean, this is just people wandering around and eating, right? So at 15%, it ought to feel a lot less crowded, simply because a bunch of people will be inside attractions at the time. So, yeah.
They had a few character experiences kind of hidden around. There wasn't anything. I didn't see anything like a cavalcade, but there were appearances with Chip and Dale, like up in the woods, and Goofy fishing off the pier. Mickey and Minnie were off on top of rides waving. So there were some small character appearances. But this was clearly a very adult-driven event. I saw very few children there. It was more about just eating and drinking and just the good feeling of being back in the parks. That's what I think I personally got the most of it. Just walking in and being in the parks again felt amazing.
So how much of the park was open? Like, how much could you walk around, and where was it blocked off?
You could have gone anywhere you wanted to other than towards Avengers Campus. Everything else was completely open.
So all the way around Pixar Pier and everything was open.
It was.
Wow.
And they were in the booths. So they had, most of the restaurants, most of the outdoor kind of quick service restaurants were open. Two of the more signature dining places were open. I couldn't get any reservations for them, unfortunately, but they were open. So you could have walked around and had food and drink pretty much anywhere in the park.
Which two signature restaurants were open? Carthay wasn't open, was it?
Carthay was open.
It was open. Okay.
It was.
I thought that they could only have Did they have outdoor dining?
They did have outdoor dining there, yes.
Okay, so they still can't have indoor dining at Carthay.
Well, now in California you can, but you can have up to 10% max capacity, but they did not have any indoor dining there.
Okay.
But they could have had up to 10% if they wanted to.
And then the other one was Golden Vine.
No, it was not. Lamp.
Oh, Lamplight.
Yes,
Oh,
Lamplight was the other one.
okay. Because Lamplight has all that outdoor space downstairs. I thought Golden Vine would, because they have a really big patio too. Would have made sense to have that open. So the ticket price was $75, right? And you got $25 in a food. It was a food voucher essentially, right? You could only use it on food. You couldn't use it on merchandise, correct?
Nor could you use it on alcohol.
Okay. So food, but no alcohol and nothing else. And then, so that, and parking was included or no?
Parking was included, yes.
Parking was included. Okay, so that's another $20 and some value that most people get annoyed about. So I mean that makes it, in terms of, just getting into the park and walking around, I guess for sure people that have been dying to get in there and just walk around for $30. That's a reasonable price point, I think, for a day. And what were the hours?
They were 12 to 8 p.m. But you realize it's sold out within hours, right? So there is obviously quite a bit of pent-up demand, people just wanting to physically get into the parks.
Yeah, right. For sure. So, and I mean, 12 to 8, that's a pretty nice span of time, for people to be able to stroll around. And yeah, I guess for certain, the ability to walk around and take a lot of pictures for anybody who's a photographer, that must have been, fantastic to have the park and nobody in your way to take pictures, right?
I will tell you that again, I was there the first day. I think, at least 25% of the attendees were Disney vloggers. They were everywhere. Couldn't be without that. I'm sure that I was in several hundred people's vlogs as I was there.
Probably, right? Yeah, all them live streamers. Let's see. Somebody in the chat asked, when do you think they'll start selling tickets for Disneyland? So, yeah, we talked 2 weeks ago about Disneyland reopening, I think. Or last week, maybe. Disneyland's reopening April 30th. But obviously, with no more annual pass holders, they're going to have to sell tickets. And one assumes that they're going to sell tickets online as opposed to make you wait at the ticket booth that day. But we don't have any idea when they're going to start selling tickets, right?
We do not, and I'm waiting anxiously to buy tickets. I'll try to be there day one if I can. But yeah, no announcements.
And the other question is, Grand Californian Hotel is opening on April 30th along with the parks. But last time I checked,
they're opening on the 29th.
They're open on the 29th, so you could stay overnight. Last time I checked, you can't book that yet.
You cannot.
So
I checked again today.
Did you? Okay. So yeah. So between not being able to book,
because they're trying to keep it local. I mean, you have to be a California resident to go.
Well, you don't have to be a California resident to go to the hotel. You have to be a California resident to go to the park.
True,
right?
As far as we know.
Well, no, because the DVC portion of the Grand Californian opens on May 2nd, and I have a reservation for May 2nd, and I'm certainly not a California resident. Last time I checked,
my only question is, I wonder if they consider just similar to the DVC owners being able to buy a Florida resident pass. I wonder if having some minute share of a deeded space in California would give you the ability to enter the park.
So here's the problem. Well, there's two problems. But first of all, DVC members cannot get Florida resident rates for tickets. They have their own discount, which is the same as the Florida resident rates, but it's not the Florida resident ticket. So, like when they come out with like the Florida resident 4-day tickets or something, DVC members can't buy that. But the other thing is that I don't know that would even be able to be done simply because you would have to have the cast members at the turnstiles somehow look up your DVC membership.
True.
And not only see that you're a member, but see where you own. Right? And that's way more complicated than anything else that they could possibly do at the front gates. So that's...
And wasn't it, and I could be totally wrong, but wasn't it also a condition that California, the state of California, said that they would need to limit it to California residents?
That's a state restriction, right? So when we talked about...
so that's not...
Yep.
It's not like you can own DVC and sort of get around it, because that, I don't think California means that.
No, I'm sure they don't.
It was less than just a state. Wasn't it a certain radius of the park even? I don't think it was all California residents.
Consideration.
Is that previous?
The new one is going to be everyone in the state of California can go. Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, because when we talked about this last time before that rule was in place, I had said, speculating that that guests at the hotels would be let into the parks simply because, why else would you stay at the hotel? But clearly California doesn't want people coming from out of state even to stay at the hotel because, they can't stop you from doing that, but they can stop you from going in the parks, which certainly discourages you from coming to stay at the hotels, because now there's no reason to stay at the hotels because it doesn't get you into the parks. So we'll see. It'll be interesting.
It was disappointing. It was disappointing even for this event that I couldn't stay on site. I had to.
Yeah.
I've never not stayed on site before Disneyland, so I had to go find a place to stay outside park.
Right. So yeah, that's. I mean, this is all.
And how far are you? How long of a drive is it for you to get to Disneyland?
I got on a 6 a.m. flight. So I live in San Francisco. It's only about an hour long flight to get there.
Okay.
So I literally flew in the morning before, spent the day there, and then flew out the next afternoon.
Nice little trip.
Yeah. And by the way, there were many others like me. I wasn't the only one. I met several people who were from Northern California who flew down just for the event.
I'm sure. Yeah. So you think overall it was a pretty good value? Now I know, even though we sent Katie and made her go 3 times, her review of the event overall was that you could go once and be happy, but it's not something that would have a lot of repeat value.
No, not 3 times in a row. Maybe once every couple weeks or so, but not something
just to get your fix.
Yeah, just get your fix. And again, it's a nice outing. The weather in California is great. Just sitting outside, having great outdoor dining with like-minded people. Everyone's just happy to be there. There's not many places where you go and everyone around you is just smiling and having a good time and happy to be there. And I can't talk about how awesome the cast members were enough. They were all just super excited to be there. You could see the excitement in their eyes, that they were back to work and ready to bring magic to the people.
Yeah.
Another thing I will say is that I saw more suits than I've ever seen at any Disney event anywhere. A lot of the executives were over there making sure this was a great event, that they were getting positive press from it. They were everywhere.
I believe that. Yeah, I remember going to Walt Disney World parks when they first opened in July, and the cast members were so excited. That wears off. I wouldn't expect it to last much past April 30th. To be honest, they might be tired of it by then. But you'll have many more cast members in place on April 30th. But I don't think that's going to last very long, especially when, everybody who's there is going to be there, and they will have had to buy expensive tickets, so they're going to be looking to get their money's worth out of that experience when it first opens. And if any little thing happens, they're going to get really annoyed, is my guess. Although maybe that's a good segue into Bob Chapek claiming publicly that guest satisfaction scores have increased since a year ago. Now, here's the thing. Well, first of all, you know that you can make statistics say anything. And so if you asked me, guest satisfaction scores, how could they possibly have increased? Well, there's a couple ways. One is that people are happy that Disney's open, right? So that's going to skew the results quite a bit. Somebody in the chat just said, I don't believe Chapek. Yeah. Two is obviously Chapek could be making shit up because that's what he does. And we've seen that happen repeatedly over and over when he claimed that, capacity was still at 25% at Walt Disney World, and it was more like 35 to 50%. So, yeah, that's a possibility too. Then you've got, you can't possibly tell me that they surveyed people coming out of Epcot and that their satisfaction coming out of Epcot is higher than it was last year. That's blanket impossible. So that's a lot of this I don't believe it. I mean, maybe people are happy. I bet the questions that got higher scores are, how pleasant was your experience in the parks, due to crowds? Because certainly, and except for the past 2 weeks for spring break, the crowds haven't been terrible for the most part. So yeah, if you survey people that are only there during the week and not on the weekends, and you ask them specific questions about how pleasant their experience was, and if there was any negative experiences due to crowds, then yeah, sure, compared to last March when the place was mobbed, of course your guest satisfaction scores are going to go up. So my thought is that either the questions were phrased very specifically to elicit favorable responses, or the surveys were taken at very specific points in time, or very specific locations, or certainly not on the weekends. So they're essentially making stuff up.
I will tell you that
there's not a lot open. I mean, it depends on who they're asking too. I mean, the people who are there, someone like me. I mean, I'm a huge Disney fan, obviously, but I'm not going, and I'm not going because I know it's not the full experience.
Right.
So either they may be talking to people that have never been there before. They may be talking to people that will love it no matter what. I mean, but I'm not going to go because I'm not going to spend my time and money on something that's not the experience now.
Right. Exactly. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. That's the exact path I was going down. There's a large segment of the Disney community that Disney does it wrong. There's some Facebook groups out there that you just read them and it's like this isn't the same place that I go to. So that might be the segment that's in the parks right now, because a lot of the hardcore people that can go a lot still go just for the news piece of it, the side of it. But like me, I'm not going either. I'm not going to go for fly halfway across the country for half an experience.
Right.
And Chapek mentioned the word magic in that article like 3 or 4 times. And I am like, what magic? Fireworks are gone, parades are gone, characters are gone. What magic is he talking about that people are experiencing that are causing these high marks? I have no idea.
People in the chat are saying maybe the question was, is this better than being stuck at home or stuck in your cubicle? Right? Like that's going to be pretty much 100% guest satisfaction. Are you satisfied to be here rather than somewhere else that's much more hellish? Well, yeah. I mean,
I get my second vaccine in 2 weeks, and I was thinking, I can do anything now. And then I was like, we should go to Disney. And I'm like, and then I thought about it again, and I said, no, I'm not going to Disney.
Why would you?
Not
want
now.
To?
I mean, I love Disney. I don't want to remember it like this.
Yeah.
I'm making my third trip to Florida in a couple weeks, and this year, and I have not even come close to going to Disney yet. So,
yeah, I mean, to be honest, well, the last time I was down was like a month ago at this point, and I only spent half a day in the parks. But to be honest, if I was going to go back, the first place I would make a beeline for is Volcano Bay, because Volcano Bay hasn't been open since November, and I miss it. I would go to Volcano Bay before I go to any Disney park. So, you know, there's just, I mean, honestly, the experience at Volcano Bay is the fullest park experience of any park in Orlando right now. Like, everything at Volcano Bay is open. You don't get there's no other park in Orlando that has like 90+% of their offerings open. So, you know, it's kind of like, I at least in Florida we have annual passes, so, you know, you can go for half a day to Epcot and not, you know, worry about having to have a park ticket or whatever. But other than that, you know, it's kind of...
But just to play devil's advocate, though, we are all a very unique group of people. Maybe we're 5 or 10% of the Disney's customer base. Most people don't realize what they're missing. They've never seen, you know, the Grand Floridian Orchestra, or they've never seen, you know, some of the street entertainment that we all love and hold so dear. If you don't know that it should be there, it doesn't bother you.
I mean, that's the problem. That's the problem with any guest satisfaction survey at any point ever, is that, you know, there's all these dumb people that forget what they did the last time they were there, or have never been, and they're thinking, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, because they have no idea what they're supposed to be experiencing. Right?
I still think back to 2002, or it might have been the end of 2000. No, it was 2002, when it was just empty and you could walk on anything, and it was amazing. And now I go and I'm always like, what is this?
Yep.
I mean, that was back when we still had the paper fast passes, and you didn't even need them.
Yep. Absolutely. I remember 2002 because at that point my wife worked at the Disney store in our local mall. And so we would go, and she would get in for free, and we would get cast member discounts on dining and merchandise, and we would get we could go to Company D and the property control. I'm going to sneeze.
Oh, thank goodness he muted that.
Yeah.
That would have been loud in the earphones.
But so yeah, I remember that 2002 through 2004 was like amazing. We went in 2004 in February, and that was right when Pop Century opened, and we got the cast member rate for Pop Century. It was like $49 a night. It was unbelievable. So yeah.
In 2002, I stayed at the Grand Floridian for $38 a night.
Wow.
But I owned a travel agency.
Oh, well, there you go.
And that was concierge level. But they couldn't, I mean, they weren't selling anything. So they just started offering, you know, everybody that they could, whatever. And that's why we wound up going then.
Yeah.
But that was the most incredible experience. So I always compare everything to that.
Yeah, right?
Now I don't even stay on property because of the expense of it. And I like to have a full kitchen, and washer and dryer. So I stay in a villa offsite.
Yeah, that's I mean, if we don't stay in a DVC on site, then we usually stay in a timeshare offsite. But yeah. So anyway, wow, we really got sidetracked. What were we talking about?
Just as long as we mention the Moana thing.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about the guest satisfaction scores. I mean, it's
on that same point, guys. The biggest thing that I had on guest satisfaction is overcrowding of parks. Yeah, you know, I think that the guest reservation system is here to stay. Do you think that Disney will ever go back to 100% capacity, or will they, attempt to limit it to drive up guest satisfaction?
I think for certain the reservation system is here for a long time. It's clearly something that they like because it allows them to understand their staffing needs well in advance, right? Like that was a major problem, was that Disney could never predict. I mean, they could because they had years of existing data, but now they know exactly the number of people that are coming into a park at every time. So you've got that, and then you've got the early entry thing that's now at every park every day, and that's going to really spread out crowds and even out crowds. So Disney has much more control over how many people are in any given park at any given time. And even somebody's got the show on in the background. So beyond that, the park hopping thing is kind of, I'm sure Disney would not allow park hopping if they didn't have to, right? Like park hopping is a thing that everybody has come to expect and demand, and it's part of your pass. But certainly that adds an element of, an element of randomness to the park crowds, and so I'm sure they would rather not. Say that again?
It's also incremental revenue to them, right? So people will buy park hoppers even if they don't use it every day.
Right.
And that's a $7 increase.
Right.
And it adds to restaurant revenue, and sometimes I'll stop at a park just because I saw something earlier that I didn't get earlier in the week. I'll go in to get it. So I mean, there is an advantage to them to allow it.
Yeah.
I mean, for Epcot, how many days have you guys gone to Magic Kingdom during the day and decided you wanted to have dinner at Le Cellier or someplace in Epcot Center and go there just for the evening? That's pretty hard for me.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Except for now when half the restaurants aren't open, but it's a different problem.
Well, now is different. I mean, but under normal circumstances, we would go somewhere in the morning, usually take a break, and then go to Hollywood Studios or something else for the evening. And we are the kind of people who basically will eat where we are. So, if we're in Epcot, we eat in Epcot. So I think it helps dining.
It does help dining because Epcot has a lot more dining than anywhere else. But I'm the kind of person that will go where I'm eating. So I make my dining reservations and then use that to figure out what park I'm going to and what.
Oh yeah, that's what we do too. I mean, Magic Kingdom doesn't have a lot of options.
No.
Animal Kingdom, usually closes earlier. So Tiffin's is great.
Right.
But there's not a lot of other options.
The problem with park hopping, though, that makes it much less attractive now is, sure, you can go to Epcot for dinner, right? Like that's a very common use of park hopping. But the other use of park hopping is, you go to Animal Kingdom during the day and then you go to Epcot or Magic Kingdom for the nighttime show. Illuminations or wishes or happily ever
and there is
after,
none.
Whatever. And now there is none, right? So instead of going to Animal Kingdom during the day and then hopping to somewhere else for the nighttime show, you go to Animal Kingdom during the day and then you don't do anything else. Or you go to Springs or whatever, which is always a mess too, but that's a different rant for a different time.
There's a lot of hopping, I think, for Magic Hours too. People would hop to the park.
Well, there used to be, right? Now, not anymore, though.
Right.
So that's the other thing. I mean, I used to have a strategy where I would go to whatever park had extra Magic Hours yesterday. Because the people that were willing to get up super early to go to Magic Kingdom yesterday for extra Magic Hours sure as heck aren't getting up super early to go to Magic Kingdom again today for Rope Drop. And so that strategy worked well for years and years, just to avoid extra Magic Hours altogether and go to the park, because that's the most crowded park of the day. And to go to the park that was most crowded yesterday was a really good strategy. But now the change is all spreads that out too, which means you can go to any park for magic hours, and hopping to somewhere else that's less crowded isn't necessarily going to solve the problem, because they're all, they all have extra magic half hour.
That's going to cause a lot of problems for people who don't stay on site. I mean, if you stay on site now, just think every park you go to, there's an hour's worth of people there before you now, coming from off site.
And so that strategy I used would work no matter where. Yeah, well, that's the other thing too.
We don't have kids. So, I mean, we go at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Last time we went, I have an annual pass, but Colin doesn't. So I got him, and this doesn't exist, and it was a short window of time that it did exist, the midday magic, where you had to go after 12 noon.
Yeah, yep.
And we saved half the money. So I got him a midday magic. I have an annual pass. We use my annual pass whenever we pay for something, so we get the discount.
Discounts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it was... like my strategy worked great when we were staying off site, because it didn't make any difference. But now, staying off site, everybody gets screwed. It doesn't matter which park you're going to. So that's another problem too. But I think, I think in general, though, I think the reservation system is going to stay for a while, because it just lets them control better the number of people in the parks. And it's a pain. I mean, I don't know any guests who like it, right? I think...
See, I almost wouldn't go because of that, because it's just another layer of stuff that you have to do.
Instead of making fast passes, you just make the park reservation. Right now, you can't make fast passes.
Well, and then you got to wait in line.
Yeah.
It's zero flexibility, too.
See, I'm all for the reservation system if they continue to limit capacity. You guys, I've been there 90% or 100% capacity, and it is just miserable.
It is.
It's a reason I really want to go.
Yeah, I mean, you look at photo reports from this week with spring break crowds, and it's insane. It's out of control, I think. And
I'd be happy to pay twice as much to keep a lower capacity.
Well, and you know what? That may be coming to California, because I think whatever the annual pass sort of scenario, whenever that comes back, I guarantee you that there's not going to be any pass that's less than like $500 or $600, because the $300 or $400 SoCal Select pass, that's not going to exist anymore. It's not. There are too many people with that pass, and it brings too many crowds to the parks, and it doesn't bring enough revenue to Disney to make that worthwhile. And so, you're absolutely going to get your wish that you're going to pay more for your annual pass, and it's going to be less crowded. That sorely needs to happen in California for sure. It sort of needs to happen in Florida too, to be honest. The problem is that there aren't as many annual pass holders in Florida, so jacking up the price of the annual pass isn't going to make a significant difference. But
I thought they should get rid of the Florida resident pass.
I mean, I think they should charge Florida residents more. I think because
it's convenient for them.
well, I mean, you think about it, right? Like I'm in Pennsylvania. I have an annual pass, even though I go, like I make trips to Orlando 4, 5, 6 times a year and go for a couple days. That's still only like 20 to 30 days, park days a year for me, right? But if you're a Florida resident, you're probably going to have 30 to 60 park days a year, because it's easy for you to just go there for the weekend, right? So why wouldn't you pay more? You should charge the Florida residents more. Sure, give them bigger discounts on I'm fine if you give, charge Florida residents more for their pass, but give them bigger discounts on dining and merchandise to make up, for the difference. That's fair. That would work really well.
The way that I used to handle the annual pass was I would buy it on site, upgrade my park ticket,
right,
so that I would get the offset, and then whatever time frame that was that we had gone the last year, I would make sure to go a week earlier,
right,
than next year,
yes,
so that I could get 2 week long vacation. So, I mean, the most, and we didn't go every day while we were there. So,
Right.
I mean, maybe they got 12, 13, 14 days out of me. I mean, we spent a ton of money on merchandise and
Sure.
dining.
And even the hotels, right? Like, you're spending money on hotels, but Florida
but I don't
locals,
do Disney hotels because it's too expensive.
well, no, but
I would
other
if it
people
was
do.
reasonable.
But
Yes.
Florida locals, Orlando locals don't spend any money on Disney hotels ever. So
True. Jason's got some seasonal allergies.
I do. It's allergy time.
It is.
But so I mean, yeah, there's it's clear that I think the park pass system isn't going away. It allows them to control capacity even though they're not using it for that purpose in Florida anymore, right? Like the park capacities in Florida are pretty much maxed out. The only way to increase park capacity in Florida now is to open more rides so that more people
And
can be in the
attractions.
parks with things to do. That's the
Shows.
problem now, or shows or whatever. That's the problem now, is that, you know, the park passes allow them to let in the maximum number of people and for what they have open, and not have everything be, you know, wall to wall packed people. What it does is it lets them keep shows and attractions closed and still not have the park jam packed with people, because it can't be, because of, you know, social distancing requirements.
Well,
So
and it also allows them to staff more efficiently. They know where staff needs to be. They know where to reassign people. They know how to order for food because they know what they're anticipating in different locations.
right, yeah, you've
So
got all
I
that.
think that's really the reason.
Well, that gives them, you're giving them quite a lot of credit for knowing how to plan ahead of time. I don't know if I give them that much credit, but you're right. No, that's an absolute advantage to the park pass system too.
I mean, they know when to open the spring roll card and when not to.
Yeah,
Right. But you can't tell me that if they can shove 90,000 people in Epcot on New Year's Eve, that they're going to do it, even with the park pass system, you know. So if they've got if they are allowed the capacity, they may still use the system, but they're still going to cram as many people in and get as much as they
Right.
can. So
right. Yeah, no, I think so.
And to me, it's a reason for me not to go. Like, I don't. There's enough hoops to jump through.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with that.
yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true. I'm actually planning a family vacation to somewhere other than Orlando for like the first time in
What?
years.
Where are you
Yeah.
going?
Bahamas.
Oh, nice.
We're gonna go stay at Atlantis in the
Look,
Bahamas.
we did Cancun this year. We did Cancun this January instead of Disney.
Yep. So I mean, like, that's, even though I have a Disney annual pass, my whole family has Universal annual passes.
Well, because those are so cheap.
Well,
Those
they're
are a
cheap.
great deal.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely, they are. But even so, we're not going to Orlando for a family vacation this year. Maybe in the fall, or, you know, late fall, early winter, something. I think, well, I'm trying to figure out. I think our Universal passes are good until October. We might go for like Halloween Horror Nights or something, but
But a universal pass, if you do 3 or 4 days in the park, it's more than
you've got
paid
your
for
money's
itself,
worth.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's more expensive to buy the tickets.
Yeah, because the tickets are the
So
same
to get off
price
on
as
a tangent a little bit, but so we talked about going to Disney and what's going to bring us back, and I was kind of thinking of this earlier before we were talking about the taste of Disney, but you know, Ratatouille is not okay. As far as we know, it's ready to be open. Avengers Campus, I mean, we heard it's ready to open. So you know, it sounds to me like Disney is playing a lot of these attractions. You know, how many people are just going to sit and wait until all these attractions that are stacked up out here to come online for them to come back? I mean, because you can see they've got it spaced out. You know, they've got it spaced out where they can keep the crowds coming. But for the average person, the person that goes a lot like us, that's been there, how much has to come before we decide, okay, now we're going to go?
Well, so let me ask Amy. Amy, if Ratatouille opened, would that make you want to go?
No. No, not the way it is now. No, I mean,
But what
the
if
world is such a
Ratatouille,
weird
Tron,
place right now.
and
But
Cosmic Rewind?
Or
What
Space
if
Tour 20?
Ratatouille,
not
Cosmic
not
Rewind,
with
and
things.
Tron?
Honestly, not with things the way that they are now. It would take more than attractions because for me, it's not about the rides. I like to be in Disney World. I like to experience
Yep.
the magic, and there isn't any.
Yeah, it's very lacking.
Despite what Chipik thinks, there just isn't any. And I want fireworks, and I want characters, and I want things, restaurants to be open. And I mean, and I'm one of those people. And Jason, if you remember this, I'm one of those people that has not eaten even takeout since last March. So so like once I get my final vaccine and 14 days have passed, a whole new world will open for me. A world where someone else can make my food. Because I've been cooking for a year, everything in the house.
That is impressive.
I mean, and I haven't even gotten Starbucks takeout, because I know it's ridiculous, but I don't want to touch anything that anybody has touched. I don't want to drink anything that anyone has potentially breathed on. I was a germaphobe before, but I kept
touch your vegetables.
But I wash them, Jason.
But they touch them before you wash them.
I know, but I have more control over that.
Well, that's very
I don't
true.
have control over, the Starbucks cup and what happened in that cup before I got it, and it grosses me out.
But if the coffee in that cup is like 180 degrees, nothing can survive in there anyway.
It was just, and you know what? I mean, the good news is I saved a lot of money this way.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so there is that.
My wife and I walk to Starbucks. My wife and I walk to Starbucks every morning, and as soon as we get our Starbucks, she has her wet wipe, and she wipes down the entire cup and everything we're gonna have before she allows me to touch it.
Well, no, I've always been a germaphobe, but now it's like popular and okay to be a germaphobe. So I haven't hit it the way I used to. Pretend I wasn't like that.
The other thing is I just drink alcoholic beverages, and germs can't live in alcoholic beverages. So it's
That is a winning strategy.
It's kind of like you sanitize your beverage.
Concentration. It depends on the concentration of alcohol.
I know, that's right. Well, you just put a lot of alcohol in your cup, and then you're good to go. But yeah.
So
anyway,
now we know it fuels the Diffendall rants.
Usually, that's very true. That's very sometimes I get annoyed just normally, but the rants get helped. There's some assistance. There's some assistance with the rant sometimes.
Honestly, I would not go back until a lot of things are back. For me, I mean, a lot of people, the rides and attractions would get them back. For me, that really wouldn't do it. There'd have to be more, and less lines and fast pass, and because I'm not waiting in a line.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that 15% capacity was beautiful when it happened in July of last year, and I'm sure it will be beautiful on April 30th in California. But as soon as that goes up to 25%, according to Chapek, that's when all hell breaks loose. We're really, really far off topic, and I still have to get in my half an hour of saying that Tom is the best because he was right about Moana. And then we still have to talk about MobileMagic, and I don't want to skip out on that because I know Mike has a lot of things to say about MobileMagic. So I'm going to play a little break so that we can all have a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about MobileMagic when we get back. So stay tuned, and here's a word from our sponsor, Spike.
When I find myself at Flower and Garden, looking for some food to eat, gotta get a spork with Spike the Bee. 58 pallets of unsold units standing right in front of me. Here for his 5th straight festival, Spike the Bee. Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee. Perfect for any food type, Spike the Bee. And while it's good for soup and chili, he's also perfect for poutine and Tupelo honey spoon bread, Spike the Bee. Plastic forks and spoons are wasteful, and they can't ever hope to be that versatile festival flatware, Spike the Bee. Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, yeah, Spike the Bee. For blood orange margaritas, Spike the Bee.
How do you make that with a spork?
Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, yeah, Spike the Bee. Disney hopes you'll finally purchase Spike the Bee.
That's funny. Oh,
Welcome back, everybody. We are going to now cut to Mike, who has a special friend with him today.
yeah, I missed last week because we were driving to get our newest member of our family. This is Luna. Say hi, Luna. She is a Pyrenees mix. She weighs 25 pounds at 12 weeks, so
Wow.
I'm in for a big dog here. Head out.
I like dogs that weigh 25 pounds or less when they're adults. Unfortunately, both of mine are over that, but I told my family my requirement for the next dog is to be well under 25 pounds. Closer to 15 if possible. They're still trying to figure that out, how to get one of those. But it also has to be hypoallergenic, so that's tricky for them. And that's why we only have 2 dogs and not 3. Anyway, so let's talk about MobileMagic. Mike, I know you have a lot of professional experience in this area. So why don't you let us know what your thoughts are on essentially replacing MagicBands with your cell phone in the app for things like fast passes and park tickets and those sorts of things.
So the first thing I thought of, so I worked in the mobility world for quite a while, and first thing I thought of was, okay, they're coming out with this. Does it solve a problem we're trying to solve? And it may for Disney, but how about for us, the user? Is it going to make our life easier? I've never had much of a problem with the MagicBand, but I know we're talking about now a phone, which is, we have iPhones, we have Android. There's very little standard on the Android side. Things change. You got backwards compatibility. So you hear about people that can't get in their rooms every trip, and now you're going to turn it over to a much less closed platform that you have to maintain, when MagicBands, which had a very narrow focus, a very closed platform, almost single purpose device, still had problems. So, and then again, throw in all of Disney's tech wizardry that they seem to have or lack of, such as not be able to add $25 into your app. I have serious doubts that this is a good thing, and it's nothing more than Disney trying to solve the problem of, we don't want to give MagicBands out anymore. We want to save the money and just push everything to an app that we can maintain or try to maintain. So that's kind of my
maintain
mini
poorly,
rant.
right?
Yes.
So I think, yeah, this is kind of, for one, this is sort of Disney admitting that MagicBands weren't quite as well received as they had hoped, right? if everybody loved Magic Bands, then people would be buying them by the hundreds like I do every trip. But the fact is that people aren't, and the people that come for the first time and have no idea what a Magic Band is, they were so out of the loop that they didn't pick the color, and so everybody gets gray ones, and it opens their room some of the time, but that's about it. They probably don't know how to attach their park tickets to the Magic Band, so they're still swiping a ticket at the park. But that leads me to my next question, right? Is that, okay, so before Magic Bands existed, you used to have room keys. And
your key to the world, right?
Your key to the world card, right? So everybody would get a your key to the world card. And whether they were mag stripe or RFID, it would work to open your room, your hotel door. So question number one is, that's still going to happen because you're going to have people that are going to the hotels and they don't get Magic Bands anymore. But if they don't have a phone, or not everybody in their party has a phone, they're still going to need a way to get into their hotel room. And then they're also going to still need... Amy, we can't hear you. They're also still going to need a way to get into the park. And if they bought park tickets, well, then they have a park ticket. So the question is, if the Magic Band RFID technology was too expensive for them to give out to everybody who comes to their hotels, why not just use an RFID card?
So I think it's something a little bit further than that, Jason. I think it's less about RFID, and I think they want Bluetooth. And I could see them utilizing Bluetooth beacons around the park, and perhaps inputting that data into the recently announced Genie application to be able to track guest patterns, to directly market opportunities to customers along the way. So I think it's RFID is just limited in the distance that the information can travel, and when you're on a Magic Band, it can't push any content to a screen for you to consume. So I think it's more of a marketing decision versus an operational one.
So they had that ability with the original Magic Band, because the original Magic Band had close contact RFID and it had the wide RFID. So they had that was part of the original, that whole My Magic Plus deal was they were going to track you, send you off for new codes.
I mean, that's how you get, Splash Mountain on-ride photos on your Magic Band automatically without having to do anything, is the long-range RFID. So that exists. They can track you.
It's not 50 feet like Bluetooth can be. So the range is much further, and they can't push content. They can't show you anything on your Magic Band. So if they want to push something to you,
but everybody who's in the parks, I mean, everybody who has a phone and is in the parks, like 90% of them are going to have the app, and they could push content to the app now or before, and they do it. So using the app for park entry is no different than using a Magic Band for park entry, because you're still pushing notifications to the app. Right?
Well, absolutely, but I think that there is a big difference in the technology for Bluetooth beacons versus long-term RFID. There's still a significant distance.
Oh yeah,
there's a benefit.
So when Mike was saying about, well, what is the problem that needs to be solved, and is this going to bring any benefit to the guests? The answer is absolutely not. It's bringing benefits to Disney because they can track you more accurately and for longer distances, but it absolutely brings zero benefit to the guest because it's a more complicated system to use, and they don't get anything out of it.
And I know every day when I get back to my park, my phone's going to be back to my hotel. My phone will.
Yeah, well, that's the other problem.
I have to go to the front desk to get a key.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times, even with Magic Bands, right? Like, so the Magic Band doesn't work to get in your room. That happened to me, I don't know, 20% of the time. And then when the Magic Band doesn't work, I pull out the phone, and the phone doesn't work either. That happens about 80% of the time for me. That, you know, if the time that I need the phone to work because my Magic Band doesn't, the phone doesn't either. So, to be completely honest, not even phones going dead, but just not working to open the room door is a serious problem. And for, you know, if Disney IT was on top of things and knew what they were doing and had an app that actually worked like it's supposed to, this would be a very different conversation, right? But the problem is that you're dealing with an unreliable, poorly written app with a disastrous back end tied to all kinds of legacy systems for getting into your hotel room. You've got essentially the perfect storm of disastrous IT infrastructure. And there's no way that this is going to turn out well for guests. I think that's the bottom line, at least in my mind, is that based on the number of problems that I personally have experienced with the app and or Magic Bands, moving more things from Magic Bands to the app, moving more functionality from Magic Bands to the app, cannot possibly make things better for me. It's just not possible.
I thought the Magic Bands, when set up properly, worked great. You know, I could go to the pool, band on, no phone. I'm on my phone 8 hours a day for work. When I go to the park, I don't want to have to be pulling my phone out every 5 minutes. I can touch on my fast passes. I can pay for my purchases. It was just not. It was a very nice convenience, and for me, knock on wood, it always worked. So I was.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think paying with the Magic Band probably was the biggest disappointment for Disney, right? Like, this was supposed to be a whole new way to pay for things. Disney Cruise Line sort of pioneered this by having everything charged to your room when you go on a cruise, right? Like, anytime you buy drinks at the bar or things in the shops or whatever, it all gets charged to your room. It's all a centralized payment system, right? That's been happening on Disney Cruise Line for 20 years now. So the idea was that was going to work in the parks with the Magic Band, and it was a great idea. I think the uptake on that was really low, much lower than sort of any other aspect of Magic Bands, to be honest. I mean, you had to use Magic Bands to get into your hotel room. You had to use them to get into the parks. Well, you didn't have to, but most people did. But to pay with the Magic Band was supposed to be a revolutionary sort of way to make a Disney trip feel sort of more all-inclusive. And for whatever reason, whether it wasn't marketed well, whether it was a hassle, I mean, certainly having to put in your PIN number every time was a pain in the butt, because most people didn't know they needed a PIN number, and then when you needed the PIN number, you didn't remember what it was, and you couldn't fix it except for at the front desk of your hotel. And then how are you supposed to pay with your Magic Band at restaurants when they don't have the mobile terminals like to bring to your table to pay? That was always convoluted to pay at table service restaurants. So I think this, to me, was one of the big promises of the Magic Band, was the payments. And coupling that with people that stayed off property couldn't use them to pay for no really good reason other than they couldn't technologically enable it. Having annual pass holders not able to pay with their Magic Band if they're not staying on property is an absurd oversight, and probably directly contributed to a lot of the downfall of the pay with your Magic Band system. But then again, too, like, you want the Magic Band... I'm going to sneeze again. want the Magic Band to be able to get into your room, to get into the parks, to do everything. You can use it as a park ticket to get into your parks, but you can't use it, and you can use it to pay for things at the store, but you can't use it. They can't look up whether you have an annual pass to give you an AP discount. No. Right? Like, that's another thing that should have been 100% added into the system, and it just wasn't. It's not like it wasn't technologically possible. It just wasn't technologically possible for the Disney IT people to do it. Really, the downfall of the Magic Bands, as far as being a central payment system, was completely 100% Disney's fault. They did not roll it out with the features that people wanted or needed. And they made it more hassle than it was worth, and they made it so that the most frequent park guests, the annual pass holders, couldn't use it at all. So I blame that 100% on Disney, that didn't work out the way that they had hoped. Now, obviously, you've got the whole Fast Pass thing and the park admission thing and the hotel thing. Those all work great, as far as I'm concerned. You know, why they've decided, I mean, obviously, all guests who are staying off property aren't going to have Magic Bands unless they buy them. And there's really, again, because you can't use it to pay for things, if you're staying off property, there's little incentive for those people to buy Magic Bands. This is turning into a rant, isn't it? So you want everyone to use Magic Bands, but you don't give enough reason for everyone to use Magic Bands, even when they're free, right? Like, annual pass holders got free Magic Bands every year. You could order one for yourself for free every year. But you didn't give enough of a compelling reason or enough features for those people, even the ones that got Magic Bands for free, to actually use them for all of their intended purposes. And so you've got that, and then you've got the people that stay off-site. There's even less of a compelling reason for those people to spend money for a Magic Band, because they could use it for even less than the people who are staying on property and got them for free. And so, you know, I mean, they basically set the system up for disappointment and failure by not enabling the necessary functionality. And I mean, you still can't use Magic Bands, or I mean, you still can't get like AP discounts on things without showing your annual pass, which, you know, I mean, I guess you could show it on the phone, but like, then if you have an annual pass and it's on your phone, you still have to show photo ID with it, right? Because anybody could just take a screenshot from the phone. So that's not solving any problems there either. It's just a complete nightmare as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, yeah, like I said, the Magic was in theory, perfect unit, but you think about it. I have to touch my band, put in a pin, take out my annual pass, take out my driver's license. So now I basically took what was going to be a technology breakthrough and just went back to, might as well use a credit card.
Right. It's less of a hassle. Yeah, it's less of a hassle. And then when credit cards sort of stopped requiring signatures for a lot of transactions under a certain dollar figure, you know, that's even easier than a Magic Band plus a pin. So, you know, I like them. I mean, a lot of people hated the Magic Bands for whatever reason. I like the Magic Band system. I wish it would have worked up to its full potential. I thought it was a great idea. You know, especially like getting on-ride photos sent to your account without having to do anything. That's to me, that's one of the best features of the system.
Yep.
But again, that only works for some attractions and not others. You don't know which it works for and which it doesn't. And the ones that it does work for, like Tower of Terror, still have the Magic Band touch points under the monitors that you can go and claim your thing anyway. There's no indication that you don't actually have to do that. But but people do it anyway, and I'll admit I do it anyway, because at least touching the MagicBand to the touch point leads me to believe that there's a bigger likelihood that my photo will actually get into my account, rather than just keeping my fingers crossed and checking later and hoping it's there and then noticing it's not and then having no other way to get the photo. So again, the reliability of the system and the features are great. Well, the features are great, but the reliability of those features is sometimes makes it so that people don't take advantage of those features.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge fail in the execution part of it. I mean, because you think back about My Magic Plus was going to be this big data gathering piece, and it's going to, if you use the band and you use the app, there's going to be all these benefits you're going to get. We're going to tell you where the lines are shorter. We're going to send you discounts for certain areas, and the drive traffic, and you're going to meet a character and they're going to know your name. All those pieces that they were floating out there, and just the execution was just 20% of what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like how long did? Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
I really hope they make good smartwatch apps as well.
Well, I mean that's theoretically the next best thing, but I guess you got to get mobile phones. Mobile phones working before you get the smartwatches working. But again, I mean, how long did those TV monitors at the end of Small World that showed or said, put your name up there, how long did those things actually work before they broke and never worked again? There were photo frames in the lobby of Hollywood Brown Derby that were supposed to have pictures of you on them. How long did those things work before they stopped working? And then people got into all kinds of, arms in the air about privacy issues and stuff, and obviously you could opt out if you wanted to. So the privacy issue to me really was a big hullabaloo about nothing, because if you were that much of a privacy freak, well, you shouldn't be using the app to begin with, honestly. I mean, if you want to be that private, you shouldn't come to Disney World, actually, because Disney already knows too much about you by just buying a ticket. Gone are the days of paper tickets that anybody could use and they stamped the date on when you used it, right? So, like, there's no more anonymity going to Disney World at all. So anybody that's got that much of a hang up about privacy issues, putting your first name on the TV monitor at the end of Small World is the least of your worries. So anyway, I mean, time will tell, but with the reliability of the app as it is right now, any effort to utilize the app for more functionality is just going to lead to headaches in my mind. I can't see any other positive outcomes.
I mean, can you imagine Apple pushes an update out, to the new OS, which most people download automatically? You could have 100,000 people park that the next morning wake up and have a app that's not working because the new update broke something.
You leave your room to go get coffee and you come back and the app doesn't work and you can't get into your room. Right? Like, if that happens to more than 20 or 30 people at a hotel, the front desk is going to be swamped. And they can't even fix it. How are they going to fix it? The front desk of your hotel can't fix the app to make it work anymore. If an Apple update broke it, they have to give you a physical card to get into your room. And, well, that just defeats the purpose, and it sure is going to make those people not looking forward to using the app for any other purposes either. I mean, that's and that is certainly not an unlikely scenario with the number of times Apple pushes updates that break other apps. I mean, we've seen that hundreds of times before. So
that's why everyone should use Android.
Well, Android is even worse because, like, Android, you can break your own apps, right?
Exactly. Talk about zero standardization across the platform.
Right.
Holy cow.
So, I mean, this is
I'm
all...
wondering if you can hear me now.
We
you hear
can
me
now, yes.
Oh, yeah.
No, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sure you had things you wanted to say.
No, you know what? I like Magic Bands, but I wish I could have used my Apple Watch in place of it, and I didn't have to wear both.
I know that I
problem.
talked about this. I have it in front of me, and so I'm gonna put it up right now because I talked about this the last time. I'm gonna put my Apple Watch on where you can't see me, and then I'm gonna show you. So here's what I do. Here is my Apple Watch.
Oh,
And there's
but
my
that's
MagicBand.
kind of an unsightly thing
Right?
sticking out of the side.
Well, I mean, it's
It does solve the problem.
Figment. You could, if you wanted to be really, really cruel, you could cut off Figment's horn so it's not as unsightly. There was only so this puck holder is from one of the slap bracelets. So as much as the slap bracelets are the stupidest invention ever, what it does is it gives you a flexible silicone puck holder that doesn't require any screws or anything, that you can slide off of the slap bracelet and slide it onto your Apple Watch band. And it works beautifully. And I have to thank Axel for that idea.
If Disney were smart, they would market just the pucks for accessories for the Apple Watch.
There are a lot of people on Etsy who have those, and we'll make all kinds of really cool ones for you.
There's tons on Etsy. The problem with Etsy is that most of them are 3D printed, which means they're hard plastic and not soft flexible. So, like, I could take this off. It's actually really easy to take it off because even though the end of the Apple Watch has like this little hard plastic thing, you can fold it over and slip it through because the back of the back of the puck holder is flexible, whereas the ones on Etsy are made usually 3D printed, so they're not flexible. But in any case, there's that solution has been out there ever since 3D printing became sort of easy, do it yourself at home kind of thing. I mean, so to me, honestly, like having the MagicBand functionality built into my Apple Watch, I've kind of got it, and it's not that much of a bigger hassle than it is right now with having the puck on the watch band like this. It's pretty straightforward, and so that's my solution to most things. And so I don't need a phone. Like my thought is having the phone, and needing the phone, you have to have the app open, and do you have to have it on the right screen to touch it to the, fast pass touch points. Like that's more of a hassle than the MagicBand. And I know in California with MaxPass, and this is going a couple of years back now, with MaxPass, you used to get the fast pass on your phone, and it used to be a barcode on your phone, and then you would have to put your phone under a scanner that's attached to the what would be the touch point in Florida. Is a scanner, and you would put your phone under the scanner to scan your MagicBand or your FastPass or MaxPass to get into the ride. And then that became a huge problem because if it's bright out, the scanners can't read your phone, so they can't read the barcode. So then they had to build these little things that were basically like boxes with a slit, and you put your phone in the slit so that it was dark inside so the scanner could read the barcode. I mean, isn't just a MagicBand to a touch point a lot easier than that? I mean,
yes.
Yeah,
I think it is.
The phone is a pain in the butt. I mean, I like to put my phone away.
Yeah,
and not use it. I mean the Apple Watch, solves most problems that way, where I don't have to be juggling a phone or I mean, especially like women's pants don't have pockets that fit phones.
I know that's the dumbest thing ever. Like I don't know. I think if I was a woman, I would go nuts not having pockets in my pants. Like I don't understand.
We have pockets; they're just not big enough to fit the size of.
But a lot of women's pants don't have pockets at all.
That is true.
I don't understand women and their clothes, but luckily I don't need to.
Well, you're not a woman, so I know. Don't need to worry about that.
But back on topic though. the other problem is, so, if you go and you're a family with kids, you've got you've got 2 kids, they've both got Magic Bands, they can all touch their own Magic Band to the touch points to, go into the Fast Pass line or whatever. If my kids don't have phones, now I've got to go up to the touch point, touch my phone. That the system can't figure out that you've got like 3 people's Fast Passes on your phone, right? Like, it's not going to let you just touch it once to redeem all 3 Fast Passes. Or it's not going to be able to touch it once to let you and your 2 kids in to the park. Somehow you're going to have to do something, right? Like, you're going to have to scroll to a different screen or select a different ticket or something to get into the park with your phone. It's not
slow down the line,
right. It's going to slow down the line. If everybody had a Magic Band and they just everybody touched your own Magic Band to the touch points and it turns green and you go in, that's great. Now you've got a phone and you've got to hold it away a certain way. Then you've got to scroll or hit something to change to your kid's ticket. Then you've got to do something else to change to your other kid's ticket. That's going to slow down the lines. Now what they need is an annual pass holder only line for only people that have Magic Bands, right? Like, make the people with the phones go in a different line.
But they don't make people that aren't annual pass holders get out of the AP line. They just let everybody in that line.
Well, but it would be easier to check if you have a phone versus a Magic Band. Like, I don't even care if it's only APs. It could be open to everybody as long as you don't have a phone. Then you're allowed to get into that line, right? I'm trying to look up right now. So here's the other stupid thing.
But then what's going to happen is, and this always happens, you get in the line, you've got a Magic Band, and you scanned your fingerprint the year before or whenever it was, and you go up, and all of a sudden your finger does not work anymore. Because that has happened to me several times.
Well, that's a different problem, and we talked about ways around that problem before using pictures or whatever. But let me show you the stupidity of this app. Now see, look, I touched something and there it goes.
It disappeared.
That's the stupidity of the app I wasn't intending to show you. So here we go. So here is the screen. Mm-hmm. Can you see that, right? And down at the bottom it says expires 4/29, and then it says, I need to renew it. Okay, fine. But let me show you. I did renew it. I renewed it already because there's the renewed one. But hey, look at the expiration date on that pass.
Oh my goodness.
That pass doesn't expire until 2099.
Put that down, Jason. They might figure it out.
How does...
it wouldn't surprise me if they don't catch on to that. It would not surprise me.
No, I know the reason for that, and the reason for that is not anything unique, and it's been the case for a long time. Is because that's actually an exchange certificate. They used to actually send you exchange certificates in the mail that were green, and it said exchange certificate on it, and you would take that and you could use it to make fast pass reservations, but you couldn't use it to get into the park until you exchange it for an actual annual pass. And so because
so that it doesn't start before you get there.
Right,
yeah.
because my current annual pass is still valid for another month, and so that exchange certificate it doesn't expire until 2099 as an exchange certificate. But the minute I exchange it for an annual pass, then it expires a year from when I exchanged it. So that's what that is. That's just an electronic version of the old green exchange certificates that you used to get. But anyway, so that's me just exaggerating a little bit because it says 2099 and it's kind of funny.
It is funny.
As long as I don't use it for park admission, that would stay valid until 2099. But anyway, yeah. So somebody in the chat says APs get their certificate as a barcode in an email. Now you do. This is a DVC, and so I had to get it through DVC. So they are actually somehow smart enough to just put it in the app. I don't even know how. But somehow it's just got into the app. Somehow DVC has their act together a bit more than any other technology of Disney, but still not enough to cover for anything else. But in any case, all right. So we it's 9:30. I still have to reserve a half an hour for Moana Tiki Room. Is there anything else we want to talk about with MobileMagic?
Let's hope for the best.
So I mean, it's rolling out already, right?
Yeah.
Like some of these features are active now. The question, I guess, is how many people are using them? Right? Like, they can roll out as many.
Bob Chapek, probably everybody, but
and they're all 100% satisfied with it too, right?
probably.
What is your satisfaction level of the MobileMagic versus what it was a year ago? Well, it didn't exist a year ago, so the satisfaction level has to be 100%. But yeah, so I mean, I haven't been to the park since it rolled out, so I don't know, how many people are using it. I should ask someone like Tom who goes to the parks a lot, like if he sees people trying to use it. Because that'd be interesting to know how many people are actually trying to use their phones as admission media. But we'll see. Yeah, I guess like you said, Mike, it's just we'll have to keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best and see what happens, really. Okay. Let's talk about Moana in the Tiki Room. I'm sure, unless you've had your head under a rock, or don't follow Tom on Twitter, that you heard.
You don't even have to follow Tom on Twitter. There's other people actually bringing it to
talking
forefront.
about it, right? Well, that's because Tom has blocked so many people that the only way other people can see the news is to go through third parties. But that's another rant for another day. But yeah, so one of the problems is that Disney fires a lot of people, right? And so this is when you fire 32,000 people, including a lot of creatives that have designed things for you, whether you actually use their designs or not, and then you fire them, those people are bound to leak things, right? They don't have a job
But that wasn't even a leak. That was just... I'm surprised somebody would actually put that on their website.
I mean, here's the thing. If you looked at his website, he's got a lot of other Disney concept art that he put on there, like the designs for all of the transportation vehicles, not the buses, but like the transportation leaders and things, their vehicles. Like he's got those designs. So there's a fair number of designs he's got on his website, or at least had, of projects that did go to fruition, and so. It's not surprising that he's got some concept art on there of things that never went to fruition too. But the problem is that when you have all these people and they're working for you and they have a reason to want to keep their jobs and they're under some non-disclosure agreements, then they're certainly not going to let that leak. But you fire them, my assumption is I know for a fact that Disney's legal department is at least a little more competent than their IT department. And so I'm pretty confident that even though he was fired, that didn't release him from his non-disclosure agreement, right?
He probably just didn't realize it.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem is that so he put all of his portfolio stuff up on a website in the hopes somebody would see it and want to hire him, right? And obviously that's pretty typical that you want to show potential employers the kinds of things you're capable of doing. The problem is when you don't it's
a work for hire.
Yeah, right. So when you don't A, own the works that you produced, and B, don't have the permission to post them publicly, that begins a problem, right? And so he's got two problems. One is he's under a non-disclosure agreement still, even though he's fired. And two is the things that he posted, he doesn't own the copyright to. Disney, I'm sure, owns those things. And so he's not at liberty to post them publicly anyway, whether he works for the company or not. And so that's the other end of the problem. But be that as it may, there's plenty of people out there that like to post their work on their website, and this isn't the first time that we've seen Disney concept art leaked by artists who post their portfolio on their own personal website. But in any case, the Moana Tiki Room overlay concept art leaked, and we had it, and we saw it, and we downloaded it, and we saved it, and then we posted about it. And you'll remember about 2 years ago, 2 years ago was the beginning of Tom Unscrupulous, because that is when Thomas Smith of the Disney Parks blog claimed that unscrupulous sources, Disney fan websites, Disney calling a fan website, in fact, one of the biggest fan websites, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, as we like to call ourselves, calling us unscrupulous for posting rumors that they claim to be false. And then in not even 2 years, those rumors are proven to be true. And now the person who was the head of Parks and Resorts at that time is now the CEO of the company, and must not be too happy about the fact that his people were directed to call us unscrupulous, and essentially insinuate that we're making stuff up and posting it as rumors. And yeah, Chief Leaf in the chat says Disney did it to themselves. They look really bad for lying, and we were right all along. And I don't think there's any way to say anything else except that's the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was a big PR hullabaloo when they called us unscrupulous, because generally Disney is not that blunt about things, especially when they're lying. Now, granted,
they must have gotten backlash immediately.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
To go that berserko.
Well, I'm sure they did, right? So the other thing, though, too, is that I'm fairly confident that Thomas Smith, who wrote that Parks blog piece, was told what to write. Like he didn't decide to write that on his own. He was told to write an article that basically says we making stuff up, and you know, whether he was told to call us unscrupulous or not, I don't know. But he was told to write a piece that says the Tiki Room isn't going anywhere and these people are lying. And so they came out and did it.
And it was reported as a rumor. It was not reported as fact. It was rumor : story. Sure. Which is done all the time, and not just by WDWNT, but a lot
so this was certainly clear to me, at least, that this was something that happened from higher up, and Thomas Smith was told to write that article, and he wrote it, and to be fair,
and he
Thomas
probably
Smith
didn't write it. It was probably a team of people that wrote it.
Well,
it was very clever.
But also, right. No, yeah, it was one of the more well-written pieces on the Parks blog at all. But to be fair to Thomas Smith probably didn't know whether concept art for a Moana overlay of the Tiki Room actually existed or not. Mm-hmm. Right? If his managers or higher ups or the chairman of Parks and Resorts told him, "Hey Thomas, this is wrong and this concept art doesn't exist and we've never even thought about overlaying the Tiki Room with Moana, so you need to write something." Thomas has no reason not to believe his bosses, when they tell him that, right? So it's not like I'm blaming Thomas Smith for lying. It's that Disney as a company came out and not only tried to debunk a rumor, but also said some not very nice things about a Disney fan website in the process, and then less than 2 years later was proven to be a bunch of liars. And so if you wonder why I don't necessarily believe Bob Chapek when he says that guest satisfaction is up, well, here's a good example, right? It's a PR stunt.
Well, and he also said attendance was at 30% when it was clearly not. So.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, there's about 2 years' worth of precedent for why I don't necessarily believe a word that Chapek says, or Disney PR for that matter, like when they called the Skyliner accident an unplanned downtime. And
didn't they? And they sent Tom an email then, telling him what was I forget the word. It was really funny.
They called it unplanned downtime. The Skyliner incident was not an accident.
It was not an yes. They said it was not.
They literally typed. Jody, the head of PR at Walt Disney World, literally typed, "It was not an accident."
And they said something to the effect that he was like off the rails, and like it was totally called for.
Yeah, right. They said it was not an accident, and you know, you calling it an accident. Glass. Yeah, right. No, they planned to do that. That was not an accident.
No, it was unplanned shattered glass.
If something unplanned and bad happens, I think that's generally called an accident.
Tom with his alternate facts.
I know, right? So anyway, I'm just reading what the chat's saying now. It's yeah. So,
and they make a lot of poor decisions, like reaching out to a reporter to tell a reporter to stop reporting something when you know that reporter is going to. I mean, I worked in marketing and PR long enough to know that that's a bad move because someone's going to screenshot your email, which Tom did, and he's right to have done so.
And then they got very mad at it. They
should have just ignored it.
That's what I'm saying. It seems so rudimentary for $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar organization. It's like a third-grade defense,
Right.
The accuser blames the accuser. Hey, he hit me. No, you hit me. It just seems like such a horrible way.
Yeah, like exactly. The PR people,
the way they do it,
right? Like, usually PR people are just silent on things.
Well, we had when I worked for the nonprofit that I worked for, we had somebody put up a whole website, and I worked in standards, really boring engineering standards. But somebody put up a whole website speaking against one of the standards and how it should be stopped. And everybody, the board, everybody wanted me to say something and get this taken down and all this stuff. I'm like, no one even knows it exists.
Just ignore it.
No one cares.
Yep.
Let's just leave it alone, and they'll get bored and the domain will expire and it'll go away. And it did.
Yeah, right.
But I wasn't going to... Doing anything would cause more traffic.
Yeah.
Which is what they've done with this. I mean...
Right. I mean, like, rule number 1 of PR is you don't want to draw attention to it. Right? If something bad happens, you don't want to draw even more attention to it. But that's exactly what they do. And they do it time and time again.
And I saw... Before I saw Tom reporting on his, the WDWNT, before I saw that, I saw 2 other YouTubers posting about how Disney Parks blog lied.
Mm-hmm.
So before I even saw it from here, I saw other people talking about it, and I was like doing a happy dance then.
Yep.
And then I saw Tom, and he was so happy.
Yep. Yeah, he's been in a good mood for several days now.
They posted The Unscrupulous on the Disney Parks blog. How many millions of people probably went and searched for that news article?
Right.
I mean, they probably drove more traffic.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
And they can probably look up the Google Analytics on that.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing, right? So like 95 to 98% of like Disney bloggers and vloggers and fan sites are all they toe the company line. Disney tells them what to do, and they do it because Disney gives them like free cupcakes and cookies at a media event, right? Well, obviously we're not on the Disney media list. We're the biggest Disney website, and we're not on the media list because they don't like us. The amount of traffic that Disney drove to us by calling us unscrupulous could pay for like a dozen cupcakes a week every week for the rest of Tom's life. So the fact that we don't get cupcakes from Disney, and because we don't toe the company line, is exactly, it basically defeats their whole purpose, right? Like they have all these other people that all say the same thing, and post the same pictures. Because they're all at the same media event and eating the same food and saying the same things that Disney tells them to say. It's like, okay, so you have this whole set of people that there's no differentiation. None of them are very big in their space because there's too many of them. The market is saturated with Disney reporters, bloggers, vloggers that all say the same thing and do the same thing. And so all Disney did by calling us unscrupulous was prove to people that there is a Disney fan site out there that doesn't toe the company line and doesn't say whatever we're told to say in order to get free cupcakes. And it just made us that much bigger. And that happened 2 years ago. And now that the concept art has finally come out, and everyone who didn't believe us now realizes that the Disney Parks blog absolutely 100% lied. And I will admit that there's people on the internet that are like claiming, oh, well, it's a meet and greet concept art. It's not an overlay of the Tiki room. I mean, all right, first, we posted it as a rumor. The rumor is the rumor. The concept art showed the pre-show of the Tiki room with a Moana overlay. So whether the rest of the show had a Moana overlay, or it was just the pre-show, or whatever, there's pictures of the Tiki room with Moana overlays. We don't have...
would have to change the pre-show. So
yeah, right?
So
something got a Moana overlay, whether it was just the pre-show, or the signage, or the whole thing. Something, the substance of the claim is correct. If you want to go on a technicality and say that there wasn't, the show wasn't actually overlaid with Moana. It was just, if you want to go on a technicality because you don't like that WDWNT was correct and you can't deal with the fact that we know what we're talking about, well, then you go on that rant about how it's not really the show, it's the pre-show, and then Tom blocks you on Twitter, and your rant is over. Anyway, this is turning into like a 20-minute rant, and even though I was actually just...
Well, you got to do a half an hour.
I don't, though. I made all that up.
Well, here's my take on it is it was reported as a rumor. I don't believe that, at that time, the concept art was leaked. So what was heard was reported. And now that we've seen the concept art, I mean, clearly there was something going on. So there was accuracy to that. And I think Disney probably should never have said anything. They should have just ignored it.
Clearly not.
I mean, that...
PR mistake number one.
They had to have had some backlash. They had to have.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have come out so strongly saying it was not true.
Right. So, and same thing with the Country Bears. Same thing with other things. I can remember a long time ago when I was first, in the Disney fandom, Well, I mean, that's been since I was a kid. When I was first on the internet in the Disney fandom, once upon a time there was an old man called Jim Hill. Well, he wasn't old then. He's old now. But Jim Hill's been around for 20 years as a Disney blogger, right? Like, he was one of the first Disney blogs with inside info. And I used to read Jim Hill religiously, like every day. Like the people that read WDWNT every day to get their Disney fix. Like, I would read Jim Hill every day. And most of the time he knew what he was talking about. And I met him a couple times too. And he's a nice guy. I like Jim Hill. He would report all kinds of rumors. And a lot of them didn't come true. But see, the thing back then was there was no Twitter around for people to just start screaming and yelling and bashing him every time he posted a rumor that didn't come true. I mean, he readily admitted on his website, people would write in and he would answer them and write an article, and he would readily admit that, sometimes the rumors he posted didn't come true. And that was fine. And people who read his website understood that. And they didn't care. They wanted to read the rumors, whether they came true or not. And that's what I think most of the people who read WDWNT want. They don't want us to just post the company line. They read us and not any of the 150,000 other, Disney bloggers that go get free cupcakes because they post what Disney tells them to post. People read WDWNT for the news and the rumors, and they want to read things. They want to read the news as the news. They don't want to read the company line. And so we're going to post rumors that we hear. Maybe we don't believe that they're actually going to happen, right? Like, clearly the Tiki Room rumor didn't actually happen yet.
Yeah.
But it's a rumor.
Or maybe it would have. Or maybe it would have if you didn't report on it and get everybody up and...
Yeah, right? Well, that was the hope. That was the theory. Same with the Country Bears. The theory was that we would post these rumors and then enough people would complain to Disney that they would realize that doing this is going to cause a riot in the fandom. Unfortunately, that didn't work for Universe of Energy or the Great Movie Ride, but you can only win so many. But... I mean, people want to read these rumors. They want to know. Like, they're dying for the knowledge. They're dying to know the inner workings. And we only hear a little bit of it. But we post what we hear. And, sometimes the things happen and sometimes they don't. But in any case, we post it as a rumor if it's a rumor. And people that can't take that. There's a lot of people out there that have some kind of vendetta against WDWNT, and I don't know why. I think a lot of it is because we're successful and they're mad or jealous, right?
Yeah.
Like people years ago when we were a much smaller website, and people would say why is there all this anger directed at Tom and WDWNT? The answer is jealousy. I think that's it. I think that one word can answer 99% of the why questions about WDWNT.
Well, I think it's something else too, and this is something I found just with life experience, is that honesty is not usually appreciated either. So the more honest you are, and that's like the opposite of me. So I used to get told when I was working in corporate that I needed to soften my style or I came off as too harsh. And I wasn't mean or nasty, but I was honest.
Yeah, honest and straightforward.
And I'm from New Jersey. So, I'm just going to sound that way.
Well, that's
only so much you can do about that,
Yeah, and so Steve in the chat says a lot of people simply never feel happiness unless they're tearing someone else down, which is true. And Twitter certainly fans that fire a lot. And then Drew says, like how WDWNT is jealous of Disney Food Blog. Yeah, to an extent. The problem, and see, here's the problem, right? obviously we think that a lot of what Disney Food Blog publishes is garbage. Because in reality, I think a lot of it is. Like, maybe you don't think it is, but when you publish a picture of some woman with a giant blue fingernail smashing a brownie, like, what is that? We're trying to report news about Disney World, and they're posting the most blown up
fake... But they're a food blog, so they're going to post about the food.
Well, okay, then what about when they post, like, the top 10 Disney parks things that you'll never believe? Like, they post...
That's just clickbait.
Right, exactly, exactly.
And it works.
And it works,
I watched the video.
See, and now you're going to get fired if Tom watches this episode. Right, I know. So it's clickbait and it works. And then people accuse us of clickbait, but I don't think most people that accuse us of clickbait actually understand what clickbait is. Because most
people
of the
accuse
titles...
everybody of clickbait, though. But really, it's just having a catchy headline. That's
well,
not
no,
stupid.
but see, clickbait, catchy is catchy. Catchy is different than clickbait. Clickbait is literally the headline not being truthful about the article and what's in the article.
Right.
Right? Like, clickbait is, I post an article that says, I found a way to get Disney to give me free tickets. Click here for details. And then you click there, and then it's not really anything about free Disney tickets. That's clickbait. When we post, rumor, Moana is going to be overlaying the Tiki room, that's exactly 100% what's in the article.
Yeah.
It's a catchy title that will pique people's interest, and that's the whole point of writing headlines, is to get people to click on it. But just because we write something that gets people to click on it doesn't make it clickbait. Right. Because it's true. Right?
Even the news outlets
think it was
now,
really...
even their headlines are really... I'm sorry.
I know, right?
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, even news headlines now, they pop up on my phone. And it's like, find out what this Super Bowl hero did to embarrass, his organization. They don't even that headline, you have no idea what the article is going to be about.
Yeah, right. Like, that's something that...
to find out what it's about.
That's something...
It's just, when you click it, it's junk.
That's something that, even the mainstream media does now. Yes. It's all junk.
It was really funny, though, when News Tonight did that skit where every commercial break they read one of the Disney food blogs.
Oh, yeah. Headlines.
That was hysterical. Yes, that was so funny. And the fact that they were actually, because I get those emails, so I know that they were actually that.
Right.
Headlines. It was so funny.
I admit, I don't even look at Disney food blog. It's not even worth my time.
The problem, I don't look at them. The problem is, like, when I'm on YouTube and they get showed up in the recommended column, and it's a giant finger with a giant blue fingernail touching my food. Like Amy, you were talking about you don't want to eat food that other people touch. Well, I'm glad you don't have to deal with the Disney food blog and their giant blue fingernails before you eat it. But anyway, Tim says we missed the cardboard robot. The cardboard robot is still around. He just hasn't been on recently, but I'll put in a good word for
the cardboard robot. Was
the
funny.
Cardboard robot.
I just remember Tom cracking up hysterically going, these are actual headlines.
They actually were headlines. I went and I pulled actual real headlines for the cardboard robot to read. Russ is his name. Russ the cardboard robot. But anyway, all right.
It was very funny.
So we've actually spent a half an hour talk. Well, we didn't talk all about the Tiki Room. Part of it was talked about was the food blog. But anyway, you all look at it. Stop lying. I mean, so here's what Chief Leaf says. Tom is upset because these other vloggers like AJ don't care, so they're letting Disney destroy what he loves. Tom cares and he wants others to care too, which is absolutely 100% true. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, the problem is you have all these people that are essentially paid by Disney to only say nice things. And, that's when that happens, when that happens under most circumstances, most journalists are required to divulge that, they were compensated to say something. The problem is when Disney invites you to a media event, and then for the next 6 months tells you what to say, you're not exactly getting paid to say what they want you to say, but there's an implicit understanding that you're not going to be invited to the next media event unless you say what they want you to say. So that's the really fine line between full disclosure and
But here's the thing. Now YouTube has a box that you're supposed to check if you receive anything at all in return for your video. And I know so many vloggers that do. I mean, I don't know them personally, but I know that they are, because they'll say in the video, oh, this, so we were invited here, we did not pay for this. They will say that, but they will not check that box. So it will not come up as a sponsored video, even though it is a sponsored video.
Right.
And I wish there was some button that we could click on YouTube where we could flag it, because that's not right and that's not fair.
I mean, that's actually a violation of the Federal Trade Commission disclosure guidelines. But so, yeah, like if you're reviewing a cupcake that somebody gave you for free, you are supposed to say that you got the cupcake for free in exchange for your review, and then people
I've had to do that with nutrition bars,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Nutrition bars,
the problem is
the box. Yeah.
The problem is that even when you don't get that cupcake for free, but that you're not going to get free cupcakes ever again unless you say something nice about the cupcake, even if you paid for it. Right, that's almost as bad, because you didn't get that particular cupcake for free, but you got a whole lot of other cupcakes for free, and you know that you're not going to get any more cupcakes for free unless you say what these people want you to say. So that's the sort of disclosure technicality that they're getting around the real guidelines.
Well, there are vloggers that are invited to media events. They're invited to stay in certain hotels. Right. They're invited to previews of things.
Sure.
They're invited to Adventures by Disney or something. And they don't all do this, but a lot of them will say that, thank you to whoever it was that invited them. We did not pay for this, but they don't check the box. And I have a problem with them not checking the box. I mean, they do say it, but that doesn't preclude them from not checking that box.
Right, because checking the box is a YouTube requirement.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But then again, I mean, the other thing is that, Disney can invite 100 vloggers onto a free Disney cruise, but then you just have 100 people putting video of the same thing on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And they're all in each other's videos.
Right,
that that's funny. Like ability and in terms of their viewers, some of those early previews to those events get them huge click numbers and drive them up higher in the algorithm in terms of being found. So there's a financial pressure to some of those smaller bloggers.
Absolutely.
And it could for some of them it could be the difference between them staying in business and not staying in business. So it doesn't make it right, but you can certainly understand. Hey, if I'm not going to be able to feed my family.
No, I don't. I'm not claiming that they shouldn't do it. I'm claiming that Disney is sort of forcing their hand and telling them what to say, without forcing them to actually disclose anything.
And somebody is in the comments saying that I don't believe you can monetize the video if you check that box. No, you can absolutely monetize the video, because I have my channel and I monetize videos that I've checked the box in. But I don't feel like I think the algorithm doesn't treat you as well if you check that box.
Probably.
Because I know when I've reviewed a nutrition bar, because I do nutrition videos, they're really boring. But I know that when I do that, people don't watch it. But when I buy a box of vegetables and I do my review on the vegetables that I got in the big box, that will go a lot
more people will
wider.
Watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why people want to watch me unbox vegetables, but they do.
I mean, people wanted to watch Spencer unbox deodorant one time on the show, so
yeah.
Remember that, figure. Right? I don't know. But anyway, all right. We weren't supposed to talk about this for 35 minutes, but somehow we did. I don't know.
But Tom's been vindicated, so that's what's important.
That's right. And when the Country Bear Marionette concept art comes out, that'll be even a bigger deal. I think
I'm sure
at that
somebody's
point,
got that somewhere.
Yeah, right. And it's just, have they been fired yet by Disney? That's the question. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you got to figure at some point all these people that watch these Disney food blog videos say the same thing over and over again. At some point, they're going to get bored of it, right? Like, that's what you got to figure.
Well, you know what? I think, as much as I pain to say it, Disney Food Blog was kind of like the entry for me into watching all the crazy YouTube Disney stuff. So, but I got sick of it and I moved on. So right. that was like, the entry point.
I mean, I honestly think I honestly think the same thing actually happened 12 years ago or so, when Lou Mongello had the biggest Disney podcast, because Disney basically paid him and gave him access to people to interview and yada, yada, yada. I think people started listening to his podcast, and that was a lot of people's entries into Disney podcasting. And then what happened was people realized that, Disney was just paying him to say things, and they got bored of it. And then they started looking for other Disney podcasts, and that's how they found WDWNT or whatever else. So I kind of think that sort of thing gets tiring, and eventually people find something better. And hopefully they find someone that is, more truthful and more honest and not beholden to the Disney PR line because they go to media events. So anyway, that's kind of the ultimate conclusion to all of this. But anyway, yeah, we're after 10 p.m. It's past my bedtime.
Bedtime.
It's bedtime. So anyway,
I have to get up at 4. So yeah.
Oh, well, at least I don't.
I heard you were doing an after show. No after show?
Hey, be quiet about the post shows. There's enough shows on this channel that have post shows. There's also
this is the longest. Well, this isn't the longest show, but this News Tonight is. But this is a pretty long show.
If you want a post show, certainly you can go to Cosmic Read is going to start doing post shows in April. For free. Wow. They're free to all WIGS. So I know many of the post shows on especially News Tonight and Park Center have moved to the $7 tier in Patreon. But the Cosmic Read post show is going to be open to anybody who's a WIGS member. And so if you're really looking for more post shows, start watching Cosmic Read tomorrow night and every Monday night. And they're going to start doing a post show in 2 weeks, I guess, probably. Primus says, this is far better than Tom and Josh. Sorry, but it is. Well, thank you. I feel like it is too, but
I agree.
I like that show.
I will admit I watched the first 2 episodes and I haven't watched it since. But anyway, thank you everybody for watching. If you will please hit the like button before you leave for tonight, that would be great. Very helpful. Tune into Cosmic Read tomorrow night. Tune into Deep in the Plus and Tom vs. Josh on Tuesday nights. The other reason I don't watch Tom vs. Josh is because it's way past my bedtime. tune into Park Center Wednesday, WDW News Tonight on Thursday. We've got the conclusion of our second March Madness of the year. Please, Lord, help us that we're not going to do 2 March Madnesses a year ever again. Because those shows go on for like 4 hours. And I can't take it.
They're exhausting.
I know, right? Imagine having to be on it. If it's exhausting to watch, imagine having to be on it. Oh, Hershey Park meetup. Brian reminds me. Yeah, I got a couple emails from people about the Hershey Park meetup. It's going to happen this summer. I don't have a date yet because things are sort of always in flux. And as I said, we're planning a trip to the Bahamas. We're also deep into looking for new studio space for the WDWNT studio. And so if that studio move happens over the summer, that may require some of my time. So I don't have a date for the Hershey Park meetup, but I'll try to figure something out, at least get one. Maybe I'll try to at least pick one date that I know is going to work so that you guys can start planning. And then we might have another one further into the fall. I do like having them in the fall for the Halloween. But New York City meetup, well, that would be nice if New York City was open.
Yeah, that would help.
But yeah, so I'll try to figure out something about Hershey Park and Bahamas meetup. Rob wants a Bahamas meetup. Yeah, if anybody's going to be at Atlantis, then let me know. Yeah, I'm not moving boxes. Vacation. Don't worry, Steve. I'm not moving boxes. Tom is going to probably hire Pete to move boxes. I'm not moving boxes. I'm going to be at the destination telling people where to put the boxes. But anyway. Yeah, so anyway, all that and more is still happening. I haven't forgotten. But yeah, as always, things are crazy around here. And so I'm sure that Ghost Galaxy will return this year. I doubt it. But anyway. Isn't Atlantis opening next to Aulani? Is there? Is there an Atlantis opening in Hawaii? I mean...
I have not heard that.
I mean, I don't think anything's opening in any tourist destinations anytime soon, but whatever. All right, well, anyway, once again, please hit the like button before you go. We've got shows on every night this week. There's unboxings on Friday nights. I'm going to be doing an unboxing with Jill at some point as soon as Tom is done taking over our show. We've got some wishables and some pins to unbox that I've got in a box waiting for a time slot. Anyway, all right. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Thank you to Amy and Rob and Mike for a great discussion tonight. And we'll see you all next week. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
All right.